Way back. You are.
Okay, we're ready. Okay, let's call this September 8th regular Newton Falls City Council meeting to order. So if you could turn off your cell phones or set them to vibrate. Stand for the pledge in a time of prayer. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as we lift up a quick prayer and ask that you keep Officer Detective James Skirnovitz and Officer Nick Sabo in your prayers. They were both officers that lost their lives as a result of serving their community in Cleveland. And that's, they're not from Newton Falls, but they serve their community, and, we do appreciate it. Precious Lord, dear God, we thank you, dear God, for all you do. We thank you for Newton Falls, for the residents here, the council, and whatever the part that each person plays is in this body, dear Lord, and we pray that you would bless them, dear God, that you would care for their needs and just bring us all together in unity, dear God, for what is best for Newton Falls and for your glory. And we especially pray for these fallen officers, dear God, not only for them, dear God, but that you would have compassion, grace, and mercy upon their families, dear God. And I just pray that things like this, dear God, that you really that you would intervene and bring them to an end and bring us together, dear Lord. We do pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, roll call.
Bariak.
Here.
Alberini.
Here.
Waddell.
Here.
Braymeyer.
Here.
Okay, time for public comments, and as a reminder that they're limited to agenda items, 3 minutes. Give your name and your address.
Here we go. Brenda Persino, 226 Oak Knoll, Ward 3. I wanted to comment on motion number 3 raised by John Bariak with public comments. Biggest communication problem is we do not listen to understand, we listen to reply. I understand that one or more of you, even all of you, are tired of being asked the same questions over and over. But ask yourself why that is. I understand that you may feel the constant yelling out, heckling, name-calling, and shouts from the crowd is annoying, bothersome, childish, and unprofessional, and rude. But ask yourselves, why? We watch some of you do the same thing. You argue amongst yourselves. You roll your eyes. So now, with your feelings hurt, you remove public comments. Why? Because of the constant heckling? Any leader, any public official is always open to criticism and dislike. That's just something you have to adjust to. And then ask yourselves, why wouldn't some of the public citizens feel like they have been stripped from their power, their voice? And you are right, and you are wrong, Mr. Waddell. It is our right to speak, and it is a privilege. Some of us want you to know that we would like you to see our faces, hear our voices, look up from your paperwork, look us in the eye, hear us. You don't have to like us. You don't have to like what we have to say. But I ask that you consider putting back in public comments. It's the only way and the only chance that some of us feel that we can put things on the table and ask why, and ask our questions. Thank you.
Laura Heisel, 227 North Center. I'm making a point to research and present opinion with facts. I'm going to summarize this state within the time limit. I would like to address a couple things: charter, sunshine law, individual comments that have been presented in the past meetings, and propaganda. In the charter, it states, participation by the general public is encouraged and opportunities for the public comment shall, whenever practical, be provided at every regular council meeting. Council may at any time review, amend, modify, or suspend these rules to establish other rules as it may deem necessary to conduct business. Public comments do not interfere with conducting business. The Ohio Sunshine Law and the Open Meetings Act does not provide or prohibit attendees the right to be heard at meetings. But let's talk about comments that the council has made in the past. Mr. Waddell, on November 5th, 2018, you stated that as elected officials, people are allowed to come up here and tell you that they don't like what you're doing and they don't think that you're doing things right. Mr. Alberini, you agreed and stated that the taxpayers have the ultimate right to speak their piece at a meeting and disagree or agree with elected officials. Propaganda. Ms. Breimeyer, on your campaign material, you stated that your mission was to improve government transparency and public involvement. You also stated on the same material, you speak, I'll listen, let's talk. February 19, 2020, Mayor Klein, you stated that you didn't like the idea of taking anything away in the community. We have to be transparent. I feel that it is part of my job to make sure that we give citizens as much time to speak as possible, but not doing so in a way that you demean anyone up here and calling names, that you wouldn't have that. Mr. Bariak stated that as elected officials, we're supposed to have tough skin. Mayor Klein stated that he appreciated people coming in and giving their 2 cents and not being armchair quarterbacks. Ms. Breimeyer, you stated that you didn't think it was right, that you can't take people's rights away, and that they have the right to speak. Ex-Councilman Zabet brought up the Sunshine Law, and Mayor Klein, you stated that we shouldn't be looking into what the limits are of what we have to do. But you thought that it would be a good idea to go above and beyond what an individual thinks and believes is very important to us. Removing public comments from the agenda limits opportunities for the community to bring their opinions and questions from the current meeting to the floor to be addressed by council in their closing comments. It also prevents people from sharing events and benefits that might help the community or surrounding community members. Yes, recently it has been used to express dissatisfaction with council's decisions, but you're taking much more away from the people. You're preventing us from working together for a better tomorrow, as our website states. Thank you.
Sarah Hawkins, 17 East River Street. I would like to know why Mr. Waddell is getting a separate recognition. At our last meeting, his name, along with many others, were recognized for the work that has been done around the town this summer. This is the same meeting where Mr. Lynch made his racial remarks that many others believe he should have received a reprimand for, or even maybe removal of his office. That is what makes this council look like a circus, as you guys have put it. However, back to my point, if you're going to give a separate recognition to Mr. Waddell, then you should give one to everyone that was involved in the items that happened this summer. Also, I believe that the closing public comment section was removed not only to silence those who want to speak, but because you really don't want to hear from someone who has a different opinion than your own. It is not what you want to hear. And I am not one who is just going to roll over and be silenced. I will continue to be heard by any means necessary.
John Richards, 212 Howard Street. From the Tribune, August 29th, an onion was given to council for its decision to eliminate general public comments. Minutes of a council meeting November 5th, 2018, on Alberini's motion, Mayor Waddell said prior to being elected, he threatened to file a federal lawsuit. People are allowed to come up here and tell you that they don't think you're doing things right. We're opening ourselves to a lawsuit. Alberini said taxpayers had the ultimate right to speak their piece at a meeting and disagree. Attorney Fritz, he said he could redraft and keep civility between council while still allowing free speech from city members. Codified 121.03, Rules of Conduct and Procedure, A4. Participation by the public in the legislation process is encouraged. B1, during the public comments and closing comments, a 3-minute duration will be allowed to all speakers. Closing comments may be on any topic. K11, closing comments. Now 11 is really interesting because it's a major part of the content where township citizens can address this council. And their censorship has really denied an entire class of people the right to express the content of their thoughts and beliefs. Under lawsuits, when I was looking, I found Auburn, New York council meetings. Citizens have an enormous First Amendment interest in directing speech about public issues to those who govern the city. From Detroit, Michigan, to ACLU, the commissioner's actions are unconstitutional under the First Amendment. Attorney General of Virginia said to boards, stop enforcing a regulation banning personal attacks and comments that identify specific individuals during the public portions of meetings. San Clemente, California, a federal lawsuit against the city and its mayor claiming the First Amendment right of free speech was violated. There are numerous lawsuits filed in Ohio by the 1851 Center and by the ACLU concerning free expression of speech. An Ohio court ordered Maple Heights mayor to pay attorney fees and costs to critics they sued to silence, to censor. Sometime in 1990s, I read a book called Free Speech for Me, but Not for Thee. Ever since I've determined I'm going to exercise my God-given, constitutionally protected rights to speak truth to power if I'm inclined to do so. This needs clearly understood. Disruptions in the body of the meeting is not justification for censoring the content of the public closing remarks. Thank you.
Brian Crop, 247 Elizabeth Street. John pretty much stole everything I was going to say. He said it beautifully and articulated it far better than I ever could. But I did want to point out one thing as far as the public comments are concerned. And this is something I think would go a long way. The council would understand this, whether it be you guys sitting up here or the future council members, whoever's going to be holding these seats moving forward. In one of the sections that John actually just cited, where he talked about the public comments section, it actually reads at the very beginning. It says, council may also hold a public caucus session prior to any regular meeting in order to allow its members to be better prepared for the meeting and to review the agenda for said meeting in advance. Basically saying that there's opportunities for you guys to speak with the public and work with the public and take input from the public. It's built right into the actual ordinances that you guys are supposed to be following. And you're not doing that. You're not taking advantage of these types of things. It's really disappointing. The very first ordinance in 121.03, it says all council meetings should be conducted in accordance with the city charter. I think that you guys need to really, really think about that and take a look at some of the behaviors, some of the actions that some council members have been participating in, and even some members of the administration, really overstepping their bounds and their authority, and that's really a shame. And lastly, I'll mention the resolution for former mayor and contested unelected appointee, Councilman Waddell. I don't understand in any way, shape, or form why one individual requires some kind of special gratitude or notification, especially when everybody here in this room and anybody watching that hears my voice knows that the reason that this person has done the things that he's done is strictly because he wants to get elected. That's it. He's been here for 10 years with the former mayor, and most of the things that got fixed and addressed and that we appreciate it. Thank you for painting the rails and stuff. Most of that stuff was decrepit because it didn't get taken care of under his watch. So thank you for your time.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, we're going to go into reports. We'll start off with Second Ward. Mr. Bariak, did you have anything for us?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I was unable to attend the utility review board meeting. I had told the city manager I had work problems.
Okay. All right, thank you. Ward 3, Mr. Waddell.
Yes, I have a few things here, so bear with me. I attended the Trumbull County Emergency Management Agency's meeting, the Newton Township Trustees meeting, and the Joint Fire Board meeting. I also attended the Ohio Municipal League Service Corporation meeting, to which I am an executive committee member. We made some contracts, multi-million-dollar contracts with some companies that are going to be doing some service work for the Ohio Municipal League. Then I had another meeting with the Trumbull County Emergency Management Association, the executive committee. When the pandemic hit, one of the things that they did was put in place the Emergency Management Association, which they hadn't done since the tornado of 1985. And things didn't quite go as planned. So there was some issues with chain of command and some equipment that was outdated. And the executive director was on FMLA. So we had to have an executive board meeting to try to get things straight so that the next time, hopefully in the next 20 years, if they ever have to initiate that again, things will be on the straight and narrow. We also had a fire board subcommittee meeting to talk about some of the issues up in the fire department's meeting room. Then I got an invitation to attend the Salute to Businesses in the Valley at Mr. Anthony's. I'll give you an overview of what that was about because it's kind of really interesting how it may affect us here in the next year or two or three. There's a lot of things that are developing in the area, and we certainly can be part of it and do want to be part of it. The Eastgate Regional Council of Governments is working to do an intermodal connectivity and autonomous freight service out of the Space Center. They're building some new facilities out there, and they want to be able to run an autonomous trucks from business to business to business with no operators. It's very feasible. It's being tested in parts of Ohio right now, so they're working to do that. And that is part of the build grant, and they're expecting to hear from the state on the build grant here pretty soon. One of the guest speakers for the day was Stephen Winberg. He's the Assistant Secretary of Fossil Fuel for the United States Department of Energy. And I wrote this down so that I wouldn't miss anything because what he said makes a lot of sense and it's really important. Mr. Weinberg has 39 years experience in energy technologies and advanced fossil energy combustion, coal to liquids, fluidized bed combustion, emulsified fuel cells, alternative fuel vehicles, and carbon utilization. He lives in Pittsburgh, but a lot of his family lives over here in Eastern Ohio. He says that the work that's going on now and that will be in the future is really going to change the perception in this valley, the entire valley. He said as many as 100,000 jobs, good-paying jobs, could be in the valley in just the next few years. New vehicle technology is coming to the valley, and many associated businesses are looking to bring their products here for development and testing. Build grants have been applied for, and that stands for Better Utilized Investment to Leverage Development Transportation Discretionary Grant Program. And we stand a very good chance to get the grant for the valley. The Port Authority applied for the grant in conjunction with the Eastgate Regional Council of Governments. Construction of the LG Chem lithium battery plant is spurring interest for businesses as far away as Idaho to bring their ideas to the valley for testing and for development. Many ideas are in development stages right now. A couple of them have been the autonomous truck routes between the workhorse development and the LG Chem plant and any other associated plants there are. One of the things that they're really excited about is you may be able to get off at an interchange in Lordstown, say on the east side of Lordstown, drive down Halleck Young Road and go back to the turnpike on the west side, drive your electric vehicle down Halleck Young Road, and there'll be a device in the road that will completely charge your vehicle for the time you get off the turnpike till you get back on the turnpike. Those are the kind of innovations that are happening in the area and throughout the United States, and those things are coming to this area. The other thing that's important is this area has the third largest natural gas deposit in the world. Abundant LNG will bring business to this area, and this could be the beginning of an Appalachian petrochemical renaissance. They really feel with the natural gas and the Marcellus shale that's around here, there's already, I think, 3 cracker plants, and they're going to try to build 2 more. Those are good paying jobs, and it's just exciting what's happening. I think next week, Mr. Lynch, Mr. Albrady, and myself have a meeting with some of the members of this group to see how Newton Falls can, be part of this group and what we can do with the expansions and the development in the area and how we can utilize our interchange and the properties that we have. And, when you look at your properties and what you have available, you also look at the businesses that you try to bring into those properties. And those businesses, those ideas are changing with the way that the development is going out in North Jackson and that. So we are having a meeting to try to get on board and find out what's happening out there and what we can do for, the community here. There's also I think in December, we're having the city and U.S. Safety Gear is having another lattes and legislatures here in Newton Falls. There'll be 250 elected officials, big business in town. The director of the Ohio Turnpike Commission, Farzan Ahmed, will be here to talk about the Ohio Turnpike and what they're doing. And again, we've talked about fiber that runs along the turnpike and the way they want to utilize that fiber, and they want to start a business with the fiber so that it can be expanded into the surrounding communities. And things such as the drop-offs for the triaxle trailer, the tri-trailers and that. So there's a lot of big things that are happening, and we're trying to stay on top of that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ward 4, Ms. Braymeyer, do you have anything?
Yes. Yeah, I was at a Park and Rec meeting on Tuesday, August 25th, and we discussed a way to expand the Park and Rec's budget, and we're working on a plan that we're going to be submitting. Anna Munson was there and shared a lot of ideas, and we're going to be hopefully getting the handicap playground equipment and the pickleball court and the removal of the batting cages and the restroom update possibly. The dog park we're still working on, and a lot of this stuff I'm talking about won't be available until next year. And the next meeting is September 22nd. Okay, and let's see. Planning and zoning. I was there, not much going on there right now, but we did get a code enforcement officer report. He had 3 permits for swimming pools, 18 fence permits, 12 driveway permits, 24 shed/garage permits, 2 new construction. Violations, we had 26 garbage related, 5 unlicensed vehicles, 9 roof related, 8 garbage tires, 3 unfit, health department involved, and 17 fence miscellaneous. We're still working on some areas with the dog park with this for the zoning, and that's all. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Albrani, did you have anything?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to talk about a couple of things. As you've seen by the media reports, we We were in discussions with Newton Township about them coming under the Newton Village Police Department's umbrella. Factually speaking, and the chief's back there too as well, a member of their staff reached out to us over the last year and wanted to know if we'd be interested in Newton Township coming under our umbrella. We thought it would be a good idea, having everything under one roof, but unfortunately, as you've seen, it didn't work out so well. The mathematics involved that they had given our friends at the Tribune were not really accurate. We were offering 40 hours a week for $60,000 a year. They were only getting 24 hours coverage per week, I think at $49,000 per year. And one of the issues that came up just recently, some of the people that town heard me speak about this, we had an issue out on West Broad Street here a couple weeks ago where an individual who was high on meth headed westbound on West Broad Street at about 100 miles an hour. There was kids out on the sidewalk, adults walking, things like that. The individual went down into the township, did a U-turn in some people's yards, and from what the residents down there said, he's probably going 40 or 50 miles an hour through the yards. One family had 15 people out there in the yard. The individual came back through town, went through the right intersection and broadside, I guess, and then went out 534, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, went out 534 to the State Route 5, and I don't know what happened from there. One of the township residents stopped at my house and said they had called dispatch, and their dispatch told them it would be 45 minutes for someone to respond from the county, which I understand that. I called our Newton Village Police Department. They were there at my house probably in 5 to 7 minutes. So one of the questions that has arisen from some of the township residents, what if that was a life-threatening accident, or what if something would have happened out there and the response time was 45 minutes? So the township, the township officials, I respect them. They have to do what's best for the township, and we have to do what's best for the village. We extended an olive branch to them, and I believe that olive branch is still extended to them just in case they decide to change. We've got a very, very good non-political police department here. It does a great job. Our guys are the best. They do an outstanding job to keep our people safe. So that's one of the things I want to touch on. The second thing is we do have an economic meeting October 14th with the VP of the Youngstown Warren Chamber of Commerce, Guy Caviello, Shea McMillan, to further talks on the Route 5 potential growth market that we're looking at right now. As Lyle said, he mentioned lattes and legislation in December, and I want to preface that by saying that the lattes in legislation, anybody can be a co-sponsor to that event if you choose to. I see Brian back here. Brian can co-sponsor. John can co-sponsor. The chamber offers that to anybody who wants to be a part of that. So if you choose to be a part of that, I would say probably please let the Chamber of Commerce know or let Kathy know, and they would be willing to help you out. It's a great network. The discussion is about the autonomous highway that's coming through here from the director. I forget the director's name, the Turnpike director's name. Okay. So he'll be here, and I would invite everybody, even though it's in December, I would mark your calendars. Please come out and listen to what he has to say, because this truly is going to be a growth area here in the next 5 to 10 years, and we're hoping just to capitalize on some of it. Thank you.
Okay, the city manager's on vacation, so the law director, Mr. Fritz, do you have anything for us?
Yes, sir. I would like to, since the last meeting, I gave to Councilman Bariak a list of the ordinances that were originally put through, not passed as emergency, but put in for first reading. I gave him, I think, 5 of them at the time. And since then, there's been some public requests of the specific minutes. So I want to make sure from him he got everything he needed in order to settle that issue.
Well, I haven't had a close look at them, but it seems like one of them was passed in a pre-meeting and then right away in another meeting, and nothing was said about emergency. When I get my argument together, if there's an argument, sir, I'll approach you.
Okay.
Okay? Appreciate you concern though. I have another concern though that tonight we'll talk about.
I have nothing further to report, but I'm available for questions.
Okay. Any questions or comments for the law director?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor, if possible.
Address the law director.
Mr. Bariak.
I was going to wait till my closing comments, but I want to address it now. went to put a motion on in plenty of time, and neither the city manager about the discipline of an employee for a reprimand, a discussion for a reprimand. I have the email. I heard nothing until Friday afternoon, and I got my packet, and it wasn't on. Mrs. King was gone. I wanted to ask why. City manager didn't have anything to do with it. I want to know why my motion's not on there. Do you know, Mr. Fritz, why they didn't put my motion on?
I don't know specifically, sir, but I will tell you that right after you sent your iPhone message, I believe it was last Tuesday, before close of business, I responded with an email indicating to you why I believe that this matter should not be handled on the floor. I don't want to talk about the specifics, but procedurally, the matter should be handled in executive session, and I left the ball in your court at that point. We never heard anything more, so it's not on. I responded to that business day to you, sir.
Well, all I'd like to know is that I wasn't told that there was a problem.
Yes, you were, sir. I sent you an email.
What's that, sir?
I responded to you with an email indicating it should not be on the motion on the floor. It should be on an executive session.
Oh, okay. Well, why didn't it, then I could have amended my motion, which would have gone to executive session to be talked about.
Yes.
If I'd have known that, I could have amended it.
You say you didn't know it, but I sent you a message telling you what to do, and I didn't hear anything
I
from you.
understand. No. I'm going to look for the email.
Please.
I appreciate it, but I heard Mrs. King never told me it was bad.
Well, I didn't send the email, Mr. King. I sent the email to you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Alberini?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've had some news this week, Mr. Fritz, and can you interpret some of the rulings from the Ohio Supreme Court that came down in regards to the referendums and things?
I can't right now. You may not be aware there's a motion to reconsider filed.
Okay.
So there is a few things still pending, and our attorneys responded today.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And again, if I may, when that matter is fully completed, if there's a specific question, please send me a quick email. If it's necessary to go into executive session so I can share it full time with everyone, I will do it then.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, finance.
Could I ask the law director one more question for the chair?
Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Boriak has the floor.
Mr. Fritz, then, let me make sure this is straight. I'll look on the email, and I didn't, if I missed the email, it was like the other email. 5:22 in the afternoon, I got the finance report 20 minutes before the meeting. I would expect, I tried to call you Friday too, and I didn't get back to you. You get back to me till today. I would expect, if I could, maybe a phone call to explain things to me. And that way I can craft something. If it's not, because you have said in the past, sir, nothing goes on the agenda that is illegal. That's your job. That's what you have said many times on the floor, sir. And every time I go to put a motion on, they say, Mrs. King always says, I'll run it by the law director.
That's correct. And you asked for a telephone return phone call. Let me first say, you responded by putting the motion in an email. I responded with a reply to that email. I don't know whether you read it, don't read it, decide you're going to think about it. I can't follow up every request and every email with a phone call to see if you got it. That seems redundant to me. But that aside, I received a message from the city manager after 3:30 Friday that you wanted to talk to me. I returned that call to you today, was not able to even put a message in. I did after close of business session of court this morning. So at the first opportunity, now again, this is a 3-day weekend, I got the message from the city manager late Friday in an email. I didn't even see that email till Saturday morning. I'm not going to bother you on weekends on this matter. I called you in the first opportunity I had, which I don't know the specific time, but it's very close to 10 after 12 today, because I know I completed the morning's criminal session, and my first opportunity to return that call, I did.
Well, bottom line is then, if you're saying that I could craft this motion again, if I would have worded it a different way?
I'm saying that that motion, if I understand what you're trying to present, should not be on the floor. That is an executive session. Afterwards, you may do something, but you have to start an executive session.
Okay, well.
Because you need full legal advice, and I need to give it to all of council at the same time.
Then if I recraft it, sure, I'll get you how to recraft it from you.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything for the law director? Okay, if not, Ms. Musin, do you have anything for us?
I do not, but I'm available for questions.
Okay, anybody have any questions for the finance director?
Yes.
Mr. Boriak, you have the floor.
There's a few things I didn't understand, getting them both at 2 months worth. But I do notice that the overtime's up in the finance. Why is that, Ms. Munson? The finance.
I'm looking at it.
Overtime for finance.
If you look at the pay period on June the 13th, there is no overtime for finance. If you look at the payroll, and I provide in the report for June 27th payroll, there is no overtime for finance. If you look at the payroll report for July 11th, there is no overtime for finance. In addition, if you look at the payroll report that I've given to council on July the 25th, there is no overtime for finance. So that is not a correct statement. There is no overtime for finance, and here's copies of all 4 pages given to council.
I just wanted to get, the other thing is, I know we had COVID. Are utility collections coming back up? I see we were way down on utility collections. Was that because of the COVID?
Utility collections per Ohio Revised Code and the law by Governor DeWine for COVID, we have not been doing penalty and interest. I would have to give a complete analysis of that on COVID-19 with the utility office. I would have to work with the staff and compile reports. What exactly do you want? And I'll have that ready for the next meeting, sir.
And also, I see the overtime was up in the police department. Was that because of the 4th of July, or what was that, Chief? Or are we still having trouble filling shifts?
Well, he does, it's the report for the finance director right now.
Well, I was in the finance too.
Again, I just want to state very clearly, there's 4 pages of the overtime report. There is none, 0 overtime for the finance department. There is some overtime for the police department, and typically that is normal, especially for the 4th of July holiday. It's nothing, the police department's overtime is not abnormal in comparison to past years.
I thought it might be we're getting a dog. I thought something, it seemed a little bit hot. All right.
Anybody else have?
The other thing is, I saw our investments aren't guaranteed. The interest rate isn't going to be, they're doing well, but they're not guaranteed to keep at that rate on the bottom of that. Is that true, Anna?
That is not an accurate statement. That's not true. Our investments are in 3 different funds.
Yes.
They are basically at a credit A rating. We are following our investment policy. We are very extremely prudent and fiscally sound with our investment policy in our investments. The city does contract and hire James Perea with UBS Investments. He's one of the best in our northeast area, and our investments are performing extremely well. Actually, to be honest with you, and sincerely with our public, our peers around the state of Ohio are actually jealous of Newton Falls because we are performing extremely well with our investments. It's the one thing that we actually pat ourselves on the back for. Comparison to our peers throughout the state of Ohio, our forefathers in this administration and previous administrators actually made really sound financial decisions to put this money aside. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have survived COVID-19 like our peers. A lot of our communities had layoff employees. We've had to lay off 0 employees. So we should be very blessed for what we have and be very thankful.
I must have
Mr. Mayor, may I have an address,
Yeah,
please?
anybody else
I
have
must
anything?
have misunderstood.
Ms.
Mr.
Munson?
Bariak, your time's up. We'll give
I'm still
everybody else.
asking questions.
Well, your 3 minutes is up.
Am I 3 minutes?
Yes, it's well beyond. We'll give others an opportunity, then you can have a second
Okay, it
discussion.
says
okay?
past performance does not guarantee future results.
Mr.
Current
Bariak.
performances may be lower or higher than.
That's only for the graph. That's only the graph, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Alberini has the floor.
Thank you.
Mr. Alberini?
Thank you, Ms. Musson. I appreciate the comments about the sound fiscal investments that the past administration has made and also the current administration has made too. You've done a fantastic job. What is our long-term interest rate that Jim Pree has given us? Was it 3.5?
We're averaging right now at over 5% rate of return, which is unheard of comparing to our peers.
And the market right now was what, right around 2%?
Less than 2.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all you have, Mr. Alberini?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
anybody else have anything for the finance director? Anybody need a first before Mr. Bariak takes a second? Mr. Bariak, did you want a second comment?
It's just, I mean no disrespect to Mrs. Munson. It's hard for me to get 2 months on a holiday weekend, and some of these codes that I'm not really sure of and the disbursement of the money, and I haven't had a chance to talk to you, and it's hard for me to get everything together, or I wouldn't bring some of this to the floor. But I would like to sometimes have it a little bit broke down, a little bit where I can understand it a little bit better. I'm not criticizing you, but you know, I mean, it's rough for me to pick and choose what's in.
Well, for the record, Your Honor, everyone's had this report since Monday, August 17th. It is 2 months because everyone is on recess. If you have any questions with my financial director's report, you can direct it to the mayor or the city manager. I'll be more than happy. I'm available to all of our citizens and everyone to answer your questions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want a second? Okay, the only thing that I have is that got to start spending a little bit of time doing something I enjoy to do, and that's get out in the community with my friends, and that includes everybody in this room here. Got to do a little bit of door-to-door, got to go on some walks and stuff, and I wanted to thank some of the individuals who are here in the room for your input and some of the suggestions and ideas, and kind of brought me to something I was thinking about today. I had seen years ago, and I had used it in a couple speaking engagements, and that's the something I read, and it was that regrets of yesterday and fears of tomorrow cause us to miss the blessings of today. And I just wanted to throw out there, and I don't know, put a challenge for the individuals sitting up here, the individuals sitting out there, and the individuals in TV land that we don't allow different obstacles or even times that we don't quite see eye to eye conflicts to get in the way of not just the friendships that we have, but that we miss out on what a great community that we live. And I would ask that, maybe instead of coming in and each of us that we approach our day sometimes and that focused on conflicts or maybe the axe that we have to grind or winning or making sure winning isn't even good enough sometimes. I want to make this individual lose. And instead of that maybe an apology, different individuals from time to time wouldn't kill anybody, and in the fact that we try to find ways to bring the community back together. I mean, I said it when I ran as the mayor, that I ran for the community. I ran for the residents, and I don't, that hasn't changed. I don't have some secret or hidden agenda. I love each person in here, and I want what's best for you. And I'm kind of hoping that we can continue tonight. I mean, individuals come up and spoke, and there was good points made, and we didn't kill each other. And I was going to bring my big croquet mallet tonight, but No, I'm glad I didn't, and I'm just hoping that we can continue to move forward and make progress like we have tonight. And that's all I have. Do we have any changes to tonight's agenda? No? Approval of previous minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the August 17th regular meeting minutes?
So moved.
Mr. Waddell, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Alberini, roll call.
Alberini,
Yes.
Waddell,
Yes.
Braymeyer,
Yes,
Bariak.
Okay, I think that's everybody. All right, public hearings.
Mr. Mayor, there's no one,
None.
there's no second reading, so we don't need any public hearing.
Okay, all right, thank you. Unfinished business. Okay, nothing there. New business.
Resolution 24-2020, a resolution of appreciation to Lyle A. Waddell.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
second.
Okay, do we need a discussion on this, or do we?
Yeah, I'll have say something here, Mr. Mayor. You know, to everybody's point here that spoke tonight about people participating in the community, Lyle just didn't pop up out of the woodwork and start participating. He's always participated in the community, and he's always volunteered his time, whether it's cutting grass at the park or cutting some of his constituents' lawns that need help. So he's already done, you know, things like that. He put a lot of time and effort into refurbishing that stairwell at the river. And he did it in 95-degree weather, and I told him and his wife, and Marilyn was there every step of the way, I told him they were nuts for doing that. But, you know, this shouldn't be a political thing, because when people do things out of their heart, there shouldn't be a question. I remember last year when Mr. Baryak ran, he went down and did Commerce Park before the election. No one said a word. And there's other people who have done things in the community. And I want to get to the point where no good deed goes unpunished here, because that's what it sounds like, no good deed unpunished. Maybe some folks like Lyle, maybe some folks don't. But when Lyle does something, he does it out of the goodness of his heart. There's no intent to steer this a certain way. So I would ask the people that, yeah, Lyle did work hard, and so did his wife. He needs commendation too, but and so did a lot of people as well. And I think the last couple of meetings, you've heard people mentioned that have you know, Justin Davis at the tunnel and some other folks. I mean, you know, if you want to submit names to people who should receive accommodations, I think this council, should entertain those and give them notification as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Yes.
Mr. Baryak?
I've got a little thing here I wrote out, and I'd like to read it, but I'd like to respond to Mr. Alberini about the Commerce Park. The Commerce Park was talked about at a Commerce meeting, and I was asked personally if I would go down and cut some limbs off.
Mr. Mayor, that's off topic. That's not, that's
Okay, just let him, just continue.
Don't dumb this up, please, John.
Hey,
Don't dumb it up.
just continue on.
I'll get in my personal. All right. Well, I again, too, want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Waddell for their community work, as we all did last meeting. I think the other hundreds of people and organizations and businesses should also be acknowledged, also in the resolution. I'm sure Mr. Waddell wouldn't want also to see these many others who work for our town and don't seek or expect a resolution. The many hometown heroes should at the very least include an acknowledgement of their service. I also include our churches, our schools. I'm sure that, as in the past, we would include our hometown heroes. I'm sure Mr. Waddell would agree, and I think all of us council would agree to this acknowledgement. After all, we all serve the community.
Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Braymeyer?
Yes, we're talking about 10, 11 years of service here. We're not talking about somebody painted the rail. We're talking about at least 11 years of service of this man. Thank you.
I would just like to respond. I'm not real excited about this. This isn't what I do. This isn't why I do it. I don't call CNN every time I run a wheelbarrow through a park. I don't call the news when I'm putting in some flowers or something. I've never done that. I don't do that. But I will tell you this. I started in 1963 donating time and volunteering to this community when I joined Cub Scouts, because every year you had to do a community service project. Then I went into Boy Scouts, and you always did community service projects. And then I got into, the baseball leagues and park and recs, planning and zoning. I created an umpires association here in town for the youth to learn how to umpire. I've been excited about the things that I do, and I've never asked for recognition. And I think if you remember about 3 years ago, there was, every year we recognize the 4th of July committee for the work that they do. The people in the 4th of July committee spend well over 100 hours a year trying to make things work in this community for you. It's just not, oops, we're going to have a car show or a bike show and then a parade and the 4th of July and, the chili cook-off. There's well over 100 hours a year that these people put into it. And I recognized 3 people who had 25, 30, and 35 years of service with the 4th of July committee. We recognize them every year, but every once in a while, you single people out and recognize them for years and years and years and years of service. This is, like I said, this isn't something that I really wanted because I don't do this. Yes, the stairway project was a project that stood out like a sore thumb. And just so you know how it kind of happened, my wife and I were down there below the dam, and we'd come back up, and the stairs were put up about 5 years ago, and they were really deteriorating because, the school had done them once during their service day, which I have only missed one service day in all the years they had them. It needed done. So when Mr. Davis put out the list of projects to do, she offered to do that project. And as Terry said, I looked at her, I said, "Are you nuts?" I said, "That is a lot of work. There's a tremendous amount of work just sanding those things down." So we committed to doing the project, and for you guys sitting out there whose wife commits you to do something, right after she did that, she fell and broke her wrist, which turned out to be a little bit of a project. So, but my wife's a resilient person, and she never missed a day, and we spent about 16 days and about 150 hours total to work on that. And if it wasn't for, some people at the rehab place and a couple other people, we'd probably still be working on it. But the project kept growing because my wife said, "Well, if we do this rail, the ones across the river need to be done." And I said, "Well, if you're going to do those rails, then we need to do the gazebo." And it was raining one day and all the water was running over the spouting. We found out they were full of leaves, so we cleaned all the leaves out and put, a leaf guard up. Those are just the things that happen, and we did. It's a high visible project. And I thought we'd never get done with it. So
Next time you hire somebody.
yeah, next time we'll hire somebody.
Okay.
It was exciting to do it. It's probably one of the biggest projects that I've ever been involved in the community. And again, everybody there was recognized. I know that Matt Evans in our utility department, nobody recognized the fact that he spent, I think, 8 hours the night before he had to leave town
Can
for work to
wrap
go
up
and
in
do some
time,
stuff.
Mr.
But
Waddell?
He brought over his own equipment and worked till midnight, and him and Justin and them over there till midnight in that tunnel. And that's a lot of stuff to do. But I appreciate the recognition. I don't want the recognition. There is one other thing I'll say, but it'll be at the end. And I appreciate all this. Thank you very much.
Okay. Ms. King, do you have to read in full? Is that?
If you'd like me to, it's up to you guys.
I'm not sure if that's how you want to handle that, or.
I don't care. Don't bother me.
A resolution of appreciation to Lyle A. Waddell. Whereas Lyle Waddell has served the city of Newton Falls in many capacities, including but not limited to the Planning and Zoning Commission, Park and Recreation Commission, Fire Department, Mayor, and Council Representative. And whereas Lyle has always put his time and effort into projects to help make the city of Newton Falls a place to be proud of. And whereas recently, as part of the Community Cleanup Day, Lyle and his wife Marilyn spent many hours working on both sides of Veterans Park, cleaning and staining the stairs, cleaning the gazebo, cleaning and staining the benches in the gazebo, and cleaning out and the spouting and putting leaf guards on the gazebo spouting. And whereas some of the other projects Lyle has taken upon himself to do include mowing and maintaining the grass at the new municipal building, partnering with Faces owner Vonda Venzel to improve the appearance of Four Corners Park by providing herbicide and fertilizer treatments, as well as aeration, thatching, and other seedings to make a greener, weed-free park in addition to the weekly maintenance, rototilling and irrigating property for a community garden, along with building garden boxes for individuals who could not work on the garden in the ground. Served for many years on the July 4th committee to make the July 4th festivities in town some of the best in the area. During his time on the committee, Lyle donated many hours and time to the events, donated to the local fundraisers and events. Whereas the Newton Falls City Council would like to acknowledge and show appreciation to Lyle Waddell for the hours spent and money spent on making the city of Newton Falls a place to be proud of and call home. And whereas, while many people criticize and complain, Lyle has shown that he was willing to participate in community projects and events that take action when needed by his own initiative. Council for the City of Newton Falls, State of Ohio hereby resolves, Section 1, with this resolution, Newton Falls City Council acknowledges the many hours, time, and money Lyle Waddell has spent working on community projects and with organizations to make the City of Newton Falls someplace to be proud of. In Section 2, Newton Falls City Council would like to publicly thank Lyle A. Waddell for his effort and hard work.
Okay, do we need a roll call on that, or?
Yes.
Before we go, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we amend this to include all the hometown heroes and everyone that's done everything for Newton Falls in the last year.
Okay, how do we handle
I'd like to
that?
put that
You need a second on the amendment, sir.
Huh?
You need a second on the amendment to make any amendment.
Okay, do we have a second?
It would fail, the motion would fail for lack of a
Yeah,
second.
yeah,
We're on
amendment
discussion.
dies, no second. Do we need a roll call then on this resolution?
Yes. Waddell,
Abstain.
Braymeyer,
Yes.
Bariak,
Excuse me.
Mr. Mayor, he's asking to speak in private for a moment. Is that all right? Before we register the vote, I'm not sure why, sir.
You guys are going to have to be quick.
Yes, sir.
What a guy. What a guy.
Ray Myers a yes. Bariak speaking.
I was getting the point.
Okay, continue.
Bariak,
Abstain.
Alberini,
Yes.
Okay, resolution passes.
Number 2 would be a motion to accept the Finance Department June and July monthly report and attachments as presented.
So move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Braymeyer,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Alberini,
Yes.
Waddell.
Yes.
Okay,
Number 3 is a motion to amend council rules to let the public speak 4 minutes on any subject before closing remarks of council.
okay, Mr. Bariak made the motion already. Do we have a second?
I'd like to explain my motion before they have a chance to second it.
That's against the rules.
Are you the chair, Mr.
I'm
Waddell?
just telling the
Why
chair.
don't you let me-
I am telling the point of order.
Do we
Let
have,
it run the
Point
meeting.
of,
do we have a second? Okay, while everybody gets ready to kill each other, I suppose, I would ask, and this isn't a normal thing, I would ask that we would at least have somebody give a second, and all a second is an opportunity to discuss it. It
I'll
doesn't
second that,
mean
Mr.
a
Mayor.
yes or a no. Okay, Mr. Alberini seconds it. Okay, any discussion on this?
Yes.
Mr. Bariak, you have the floor.
Look, I'm willing to even amend this if council would be willing back to the 3 minutes that we originally had. I am concerned that we are opening ourselves up for a lawsuit, as you stated in November 2018, Mr. Waddell. Also, February of this year, we decided not to pursue removing comments. Info. November 5th, 2018, Mr. Waddell stated that people have the right to speak, and Mr. Alberini said he agrees with the people have the right. Mr. Waddell also said he has thought about filing a federal lawsuit for the council violating the First Amendment before he was on council. He also said he was afraid of a federal lawsuit. Look, I'd like to address the council tonight because they're going to make this decision. A few people get rowdy. It's the chair's responsibility. Mr. Klein can smack that gavel and give him one warning. That's what it states. After that, he can ask the chief of police and another officer back there, ask them to be escorted out, and they will be. When 30 or 40 people are here and they're on their best behavior and they're not causing trouble, why punish the whole group for that? Reminds me of being in the Marine Corps. If you got in trouble, everybody got in trouble. Well, you didn't get in too much more trouble, but that's not the way to run the civilian thing. I really believe that people can have this right, and I believe that this council wouldn't want to reject one bad apple to silence the majority.
Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Waddell?
I just do want to correct the 3 or 4 people that have made this comment tonight about my stating that I would file a federal lawsuit for the violation of my rights to speak. And I did that. I absolutely did say that, and I meant that, and I mean it today. But it has nothing to do with your public comments. It had everything to do with the way the previous mayor did not interpret or did not understand how to read the charter or read the rules of council. And that's what it was about. It was about his interpretation and the way he was running and doing things. It had nothing to do with the public comments. So don't get it twisted around.
Okay, is that all, Mr. Waddell?
Yes, sir.
Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
I'd like to say a few things. I do agree that the citizens have a right to speak. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that...
Can I have a second comment?
Hold on, let Mr. Alberini finish first.
There's the problem.
Okay.
That's an issue. Well, we're hearing it up there. Where I sit, I'm hearing it right here. And sometimes it's very, very uncomfortable. To the fact is that I'm hearing cursing over here. You folks don't hear it, I hear it. And I'm hearing derogatory things out there in public. And look, I can take the heat. I've been through this before millions of times as a township trustee. I have no issue, as I stated before. Constructive criticism is what it's all about. If there's something that a citizen can tell me to help me get better and to be a better servant, then I'm all for it. But, I go back and I look at these meetings and things like that, and as you know, people say things and council cannot respond. You can come up here and you can say whatever you want to say, whether it's factual or not factual, and as council people, we can't come back and say, you know what, you're factually wrong, that's a lie, blah, 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 blah. And sometimes for me, I can only speak for myself, it is quite irritating when sometimes when folks are saying things that aren't factually true, that, the public is watching us. And, of course, I run a business. And, my employees at that business hear all these things that are being said at a public meeting, plus whatever's said on Facebook. And they're stating, are these things true? Are you really as bad as they say you are? Good Lord, I hope not. My goodness gracious. So, I believe in free speech, but I don't believe in demeaning people. I don't believe, whether you agree or disagree, I don't believe in tearing people down, whether it's us or you. I just do not believe in doing that. And so that was my precipice for suspending this, at least temporarily, so everybody can gather their thoughts. choose your words wisely, because once that spoken word goes out, you can't bring it back. You cannot bring it back. And so, as far as a Christian standpoint goes, man, we can be a surgeon. We can either build somebody up or we can cut them apart. And what I see a lot of people cutting people apart here. That's not what being an elected official is. And I'll say this and I'll shut up, okay? If I want to be a great leader, I better be a greater servant first before I'm a great leader. Thank you.
Mr. Boriak, did you want a second?
I would like to put the motion on the floor to amend back to 3 minutes and restore public comment at the end of the meeting. That's what I would like to put a motion on the floor.
Okay, before we do that, I would like to say something. A lot of individuals bring up the fact that that this was taken away because individuals on the council, the city manager, the mayor, et cetera, didn't like what individuals had to say. And that's not the truth. It wasn't what was said, but it was in the way that it was presented. But the fact of the matter is, I would ask the council to strongly consider voting to bring back the second public comment, because I do agree with Mr. Boriak, and I'll take responsibility for what had taken place, that, individuals, yes, you have your time to speak, and it's up to me to make sure that it's done right. It's up to me to run the meeting properly, and anybody in here that knows me knows that I'm an individual. I'm pretty laid back, and I try to treat individuals with respect, but there are boundaries in everything in life. You don't pay your electric bill and you're going to sit in the dark. I mean, it's a fact of the matter. So with that being said, if individuals in council would strongly consider that, it would be my job as we move forward to see to it that individuals up here as well as down there respect each other enough to talk when it's your turn, not shout out, and treat individuals with respect. And that's all I have. Mr. Lauderdale.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to bring up that before we took it off, the motion was presented to me at the last meeting, and I wanted to talk about the legalities quick, and I'm not trying to influence one way or another, I have to explain legalities. With all due respect, those people indicating that we are restricting their right to speech and have input are incorrect. The Ohio law requires that when we have a second reading, that we have a public hearing. They're on all of our agendas when we have second readings. That public hearing is to allow people in the community, for and against whatever that second reading is, to come up and present their position. That is the only thing that is required by the Ohio law. Our charter places that public hearing in. As a matter of fact, in many non-charter communities, there's 3 readings, but our charter allows 2. So it comes up, it gets voted on. If we come back, then you have 2 weeks before it comes up for a second reading. People can prepare and present on the issues of the business that's presented in front of the city. This community has placed a public comment section on the agenda over and on top of our public hearing section that's required by Ohio law. And when someone says we're restricting the right to free speech and present things, that's not necessarily true. This is not a forum of free speech that council has. It's a business meeting. We have to take the input at public hearings and allow that to come in, and this charter does it, and this council does it. And they provided another public comment section over and above what the Ohio law requires to allow people to come up and have their 3 minutes to discuss it. The last public comment on anything you want to talk about is not required by the Ohio law, and specifically, you have other avenues of free speech. You have letters to the editor, you have Facebook, you have social media. Those avenues of free speech are not being restricted. You're just, all that thing did was remove the public comment section on anything. The reason it was put on, it was cleared through me that it's legal. I stand by saying that removal is indeed legal. All the facts about lawsuits that brought up while a nuisance lawsuit can always be brought up, I explained it to council on a regular basis, you can't stop a nuisance lawsuit, but I'm willing to defend any of those lawsuits. It is not a violation of people's free speech by removing the second comment section. Thank you for your time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
have I had my second comment by putting that motion on?
No.
I'd like to just say one thing that I'd like to ask the law director, since he weighed in. For the second reading, when the report goes to second reading, should the vote not go the way the public wanted it to go? And they have something to say. All these years, we've had something there in place for them to voice their opinion, and now we're taking that away. We do have a charter, sir. That's why we have the charter. It's been in the charter, hasn't it, Mr. Fritz? For
No.
years?
No, that's not in the charter. That was in council rules, sir.
Oh, council rules, excuse me.
Oh, I don't know the full history of it.
Council rules are part of the charter, aren't they, sir?
They are not, sir. Council rules are separate. We changed the council rule without going to the people. We're not allowed to change the charter without going to the people. The charter has to go to a public vote. This council changed the council rule. You have that right. Council rules are not the charter. And the charter does not require a public comment section at the end. And Ohio law does not require a public comment section on any topic at the end. And I wanted to stress that because there was indications at the podium that it is illegal what we're doing. There's going to be lawsuits. I'm telling you that, for lack of a word, I vetted it. It came up before. As you stated tonight, you know me. If there's going to be a potential for a lawsuit, I'm going to direct how it goes forward. I'm not going to allow the city to be sued just because.
Okay. So do we want to?
This tight little community has had this privilege. I just don't feel that we should be taking it away from them.
I don't have an opinion,
All right,
sir.
well,
I give a legal opinion. I don't think what you do.
That's fine.
You want to make sure there's a clarification. I think at this point, after you spoke, you may want to find out if Mr. Bright wants to issue his motion a second time.
And that's what I was going to question. Did you want to go forward, Mr. Bariak, with amending your motion to
Yes, I would. I'd like to amend it back to the way it was, 3 minutes, to give
3
the
minutes?
public.
How do we go ahead and,
You need a second on that motion?
do we have a second on amending it?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Alberini,
Discussion on the amendment.
discussion on this? Okay, if no discussion, roll call.
This is a roll on the motion to amend. Bariak?
Yes.
Alberini?
Yes.
Waddell?
Yes.
Braymeyer?
No.
Okay, so the amendment passes, so now we need a motion
The motion's
The
already out
motion's already
there.
on the floor, sir. I
for
believe-
the 3 minutes. Okay, you got the motion on the floor. Do we need a second on it for the 3 minutes?
No, it's already been done. So right
Okay.
now, we have a motion on the floor to reinsert the second public comment.
For a 3
minutes.
minute.
I believe you're through the discussion. At this
We're
point,
through the
call roll.
discussion, so roll call.
Alberini?
Yes.
Waddell?
No.
Braymeyer?
No.
Bariak?
Yes.
Okay, tied
Wait,
2-2,
wait.
correct?
Mayor?
Yeah. You voted in conditions of tie, sir.
Yeah, let me see here.
I didn't hear his vote.
You didn't yet.
Yes, passes.
Point of order, where does that fall with the two-thirds majority to pass that?
With regard to which part, Mr.?
That requires a two-thirds vote to pass that.
Would that be considered
Well,
an
we have a
agenda
tie.
item?
Yeah, but it still requires a two-thirds vote to pass anything in the rules of council.
But we have the motion here was only amended.
But the motion to reinstate requires a supermajority to pass.
Yes, because it's a council rule.
Yes.
My apologies, sir.
It needs 4 to pass.
Yeah, because it's a council rule. I was thinking of the motion being, but he is correct, Mr. Mayor. At this stage, because of the modification of council rules, we need a supermajority in order to pass.
Okay, so what happens with that? Does it not?
Once again, it fails at this point.
Okay.
Obviously, it can be brought up again if necessary. Thank you.
Mr. Law Director, would that be tabled till the next meeting, or would that?
No, it fails.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so number 4 is a motion to appoint a vice president of council.
I make a motion that we appoint Mrs. Braymire as Vice President of Council.
Okay, do we have a second on
I'll
that?
second that.
What's first?
Mrs. Braymire for vice president. We have a first and a second. Discussion?
Yes, I think every one of us has had a chance. I feel Mrs. Braymire should have her chance. We gave it to Mr. Savet, the honor, and I think we should give her the honor. So everybody has a chance. That's what the government's all about.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if no more discussion, roll call.
Waddell?
Yes.
Braymire?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
Alberini?
Yes.
Okay, pass. Ms. Braymire is now the vice president of council.
Number
Congratulations.
5 is a motion to start interviews at 6 p.m. on Monday, September 14th, 2020 for the vacant Ward 1 council position.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Alberini, Waddell seconded. Any discussion on this?
Yeah. I'd like to ask, first of all, who decided when to start this gathering and resumes and when to stop them? I knew nothing about it till I saw that Mr. Savet resigned in the paper. And then I called the city manager, and the city manager said he didn't know. He said the mayor, and I called you, Mr. Fine, and you said, I don't care if we give him 90 days. But I want to know who started this.
The city manager ran it past me because of him. He does the daily activities in the community. Ran it past me and asked me if it would be fine, and I told him yes, that these dates would be sufficient.
In other words, we bypass council?
No, we're voting on it right now.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, when there's a vacancy, we went through this before, when there's a vacancy, council has 60 days to appoint someone to that vacancy. The methodology to appoint them is not specified. Council could do what they wish to do, that's why this motion's on here. If council fails to appoint within 60 days, then the mayor has 5 additional days in order to appoint someone. And if he doesn't, I have no idea what happens.
That's not the question I asked, Mr. Pritz. The question I asked is, who set this up to start this? Who knew about it? I didn't know about it.
I would suggest, sir, that after Mr. Savet put in his resignation, that I believe the city manager decided to put the resume announcement out. I believe we discussed the announcement at the last meeting, the announcement for the position being open, and they've set a date in order to close this out and start interviews.
So that we don't have situations like we had tonight, that we were trying to pass something that everybody in here agrees that they wanted passed. We agreed that it is not a good idea to be without a council person. The city manager called myself, and council has up to 60 days. It doesn't mean that they have to wait 60 days. And he said, I want to move forward in this. Would these dates be sufficient with you, Mr. Mayor? And I said, yes, they would be fine.
Point of order, Mayor, what I'm asking is, maybe council wanted to give more time and say, hey, we want 30 days to advertise instead of 5 days, which this boils down to 5 days, 5 working days. Does it give everybody the chance that might want to have thought it over with their families, whether they want to take up public service? I think it's rushing the deal, and I knew nothing about it. I would like to have a little input. I am a member of council on what my opinion on how many days to give. Is it the city manager's job to do that, sir?
He's the staff member that would put something on for council's discussion. We're not allowed to go to members of council, 3 of them, and get their round robin input. So the city manager kind of hands tied. He has to, at this point, pick a date. If council gave him no direction. So at the meeting where Mr. Savet resigned, council at this point has the ability to direct the city manager to start the process. If you recall, when we had 2 years ago, when there was no renewal of Mr. Heaney's contract, I sent a memo of all council, and you sat on council that day, indicating 3 or 4 methods of replacing someone in a vacancy. and none of those were taken. You decided with other members of council to just proceed in one way. So I'm not sure what you're trying to say. This is your opportunity to change any of this that you want to change.
Yeah. Well,
Somebody has to go first or nothing gets done. City manager went first.
Mr. Law Director, here's a question for you. This is kind of backwards or odd. If this motion passes, then number 6 reverses it. How do you operate these two motions together? I mean,
I would like to think that council will amend it properly on the floor to give clear guidance on how they want us to proceed.
okay.
We can't read minds, we just have to present
Because
them.
I'm saying if we go ahead and turn around and say it's number 5 passes and 6 PM on the 14th, and then you turn around afterwards and then you extend it afterwards so it does away with it.
Right, I think business sense says that when you get to number 6, it should be amended to include that sometime on September 21st, beginning at 6 PM, they schedule interviews. Or I guess, I'm sorry, if they accept it to the 21st, we'd have to wait till the 28th for the week to schedule interviews.
All right. All right, is
Mr.
there
Mayor,
any other
may I say
discussion
something?
on 5 before we vote on 5?
Mr. Mayor, excuse me.
Yes.
Today is September 8th, correct?
Today is the 8th, Mr.
Okay,
Alberini.
so we can still accept applications up until September 14th, correct, Mr. Fritz?
You can accept them, but it's going to be hard to schedule interviews.
I understand.
I know at the previous replacements of people, there was multiple nights of interviews because they weren't able to schedule everybody the same night.
Understand, sure.
But I would like to think that we give a specific cutoff date,
Yep.
and so it's orderly for everyone to be on the same page as we go forward.
I'd say call to vote, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, did you want a or did somebody else want a first before Mr. Boriak gets a second?
There's a motion to call the vote.
Okay, well, let him have a second first. Boriak, did you want to?
Yeah, when it, sir, at this stage, when they have been, the discussion, if they call the vote, they have to go to vote.
All right, roll call.
Braymeyer.
I don't understand.
This is on the motion to start interviews at 6 PM on September 14th.
Yes.
Bariak.
To start, the motion is.
It's motion number 5 to start interviews at 6 PM on Monday, September 20th, 20 for the vacant Ward 1 position.
I'm going to vote no because it doesn't have a cutoff.
Alberini?
Yes.
Waddell?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes.
Number 6 is a motion to accept applications till September 21st to give ample time for applying by Ward 1 qualified electors.
Okay, do we have, Mr. Boriak, do you make this motion then?
Yes, the reason I made this motion is just to give people a chance. I can remember when a councilman applied
Okay, wait,
and
hold on,
said
do we?
nobody applied after the advertising.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second on the motion? Okay, then motion dies.
Motion to authorize the city manager to give a 30% discount on commercial water and electric customers for 1 month of utility bills.
Okay, somebody make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, Ms. Munson, was any discussion given to you about a possible discount to the commercial establishments in the community at all?
No, sir.
No recommendation, I mean, no discussion took place as far as that goes. First thing is, secondly, a rebate of this magnitude, can we afford it as far as the electric fund goes?
I would have to do a review of analysis. I don't have those figures with me. I would have to work with the city manager, and obviously, Bill George of the electric department. I would have to work in detail with the utility department as well as the water department. But I would take leadership from the city manager.
So before we move on something like this, we need the data from you to say specifically we can do it or we can't do it, correct?
I cannot answer that at this point in time.
Understand.
This needs to go through the city manager.
Understand. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Waddell, you have the floor.
Ms. Buston, I just wanted, Terry asked some of the questions I was going to ask. I do have, are any of the businesses in town, have they received any discounts, credits, or savings from Newton Falls through our utility department or through the Utility Review Commission or anything?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like make a motion, we table this indefinitely.
Second.
Discussion on tabling the motion.
I don't know, I'm just going by what Mr. Waddell said. That when businesses got up and running, he guaranteed we would revisit it and give the businesses a 30% discount. Now, maybe we could back off a little bit on some of the big high commercial users, but our small businesses need it now.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Waddell?
Just want to correct Mr. Bariak. I did absolutely state that I would reconsider this, but I did not state 30%. And I think that there's a lot of due diligence that we need to do, and there should be some discussion, some meetings, and some information before you put it on the agenda to do this. That's what you're supposed to do. Have it ready to go when you bring it.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, Ms. Munson, this has to go, when you review, it has to go to the Finance Committee too as well, correct?
I would recommend that, yes.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay, does anybody want a second?
The motion to table indefinitely was
I second.
first and seconded already.
Okay, I do recall months ago that when we gave the residents a discount, and I don't remember which one of the council individuals brought up the fact that it doesn't make too much sense to give the businesses a discount at that time when a lot of them weren't open, that it was a good idea when they're up and running. And I do agree with that, and know that first, however does it have to run through the city manager or through the finance department? But as we table this, can we table it for a certain date or anything like that, or no?
The motion that we have is to be tabled indefinitely.
Okay.
We can amend and ask for a specific time for it to come back.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if you set it up for a date, then you're mandated to have it by that date. Or if you table it indefinitely, it gives us time to have the discussions, have the different meetings with the different committees, and do it the right way. If you set a date, she may not have all the information. So that's why if you do it indefinitely, we can bring it back. That's not a problem.
Okay. All right.
Have we set a date? Or
No, it's indefinitely, Mr. Bariak.
Well, just indefinitely?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call.
Bariak,
No.
Alberini,
Yes.
Waddell,
Yes.
Braymeyer.
Yes.
Okay, motion is tabled. Closing remarks. Mr. Bariak, Second Ward, did you have anything? Mr. Bariak, did you have any closing remarks?
Yes. I'd like to thank the public for their input tonight. It's good to hear people. Oh, wait a minute. We've got Mr. Crop there.
Did pass.
There's nothing there to
Closing
speak.
comments, correct, sir?
Not for the public.
According to the
Not for the
what you guys
public.
Approved today, you approved the minutes from the last meeting, that states very specifically that the section 11, public comments in the order of business, has been removed. But if you go to what we're actually following, which are the ORC, the 12103, the very first section states very clearly, which is not.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
This has not been removed from the
Yeah,
order
this,
rules.
Mr. Crop, it's closing remarks time.
Right, and that's what it states, closing comments may be on any topic. It states very clearly in section B, section part 1, that during the public comment, the closing comment section at a regular meeting, 3 minutes will be allowed to all speakers. Now, that part
Point of order.
that part of the order, or that part of the
Point of order.
rules have not been removed.
Yes.
According to the minutes, that was not voted on, there was no motion made to remove that section of the code, the ordinance that the council follows. So I would like to make my closing comments.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't.
3 minutes according to the,
No,
according to the code.
you don't have the floor. I apologize. I would have to look at it, but you don't have the floor.
Would you like me to bring it up to you and show you? I haven't highlighted.
No.
So we don't follow our own ordinances?
Yes, we do. Mr. Boric, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Mr. Boric, you have the floor.
what I was saying is I appreciate everybody coming up respectfully, coherently, and intelligently in voicing their opinion. I hope this council will revisit this real quick. And I think the people themselves will make the judgment down the road.
Thank you. Mr. Waddell?
Yeah, a couple things. I will in the future reconsider the public comments, but I'm not going to do it on the spur of the moment tonight. And I'm going to make a comment that kind of ties in with my resolution. And the economic development team has been looking quite a while at the Arlington school property to decide what to do with that. And I think a soccer field's a good idea. We've talked about it, but the problem is we have a township resident who's leaving that likes to throw things on on Facebook that says, "Why don't I go over and cut the fields at the soccer field?" Well, I'll tell you what. In late 1980s and early 1990s, I cut all the soccer fields over there. My son played soccer. It was my part of volunteering as a parent. I cut all those fields for years. My son doesn't play anymore over there. If the parents don't want to cut it, then the only other option is to pay somebody to do it. When my son went to baseball, I cut the baseball fields. And in fact, at one point in time, after I was on Park and Recs, my wife thought about having our property declared a city park so she could get something cut over there. But, I cut the city parks. When my son played, we enlarged the foul lines. We put in warning tracks on the field. We took the flagpole down. We repaired the flagpoles, put them back up. Purchased audio equipment and built temporary press boxes behind the baseball fields. And Mr. Eric Thompson and I announced all the games and the kids' names and their stats, and we played baseball music between innings, just like the Field of Dreams over in PA, where I had gone with some of our teams and volunteered to umpire over there. To push something off onto somebody else all the time and not do the things yourself, that's what part of the problem is here. And I do a lot. I commit myself to do it, and I enjoy doing it. I love to do it. And, don't throw people under the bus because you don't know what you're talking about or doing. But when it comes to the soccer fields, they're paying a lot of money to cut those soccer fields. I think that, parents need, I cut it with a mower a heck of a lot smaller than the one I got now. But I did it as a parent, as a responsible parent. And I think that a lot of parents in all these leagues step up and do the things they need to do to help the leagues out. You see it all around town when they have all these functions. So I think the idea of a soccer field and a soccer complex, we don't have one. You're right, that's something we don't have, and that's one of the things we discussed about the Arlington field. But, until then, I think the parents in the soccer league need to step up and either cut the field or they're going to have to pay to have it done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Braymeyer?
Nothing.
Mr. Alberini?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor. Everybody enjoy the evening and be blessed.
Okay, do you have anything, Mr. Law Director?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, what about Ms. Finance Director?
I do not.
Okay, and the only thing that I have to close off with is agenda items that we looked at tonight. It wasn't a real full agenda, and there's not, you would say, decisions made on a lot of the things. Some of the things are tabled, but I appreciate individuals coming in and your input brought, the discussion that we have here. And if we're patient, I believe the things with the public comments, the business discounts and such, that those things will be brought back, taken off the table, discussed, and as I said, when I came in here, I talked to a couple individuals. I think each individual here and individuals in the seats, the goal is we're not always happy, but I think that we will each be, content and pleased with what takes place, because we will be looking to make the best decisions for the community. And I just thank everybody for their time tonight, and that's about all I have to say. Do we have a motion to
So move.
close the meeting? Alberini, do we have a second? Waddell? Okay, roll call.
Alberini?
Yes.
Waddell?
Yes.
Braymeyer?
Yes.
Bariak?
All right.
Rita, don't go away from it.
At this point, at this point, it is not.
Not gonna bring them back.
As of this point, it is not.
It has to be a
Wow. You get exactly what I
You need a
see, okay?
supermajority. So until you get another person, you need 3 votes.
3 people notice here, John. Right? Just saying. Huh? 3 people notice here, John. Mercy.
Well, congratulations, Eric.
Well, thank you.
Chairman.
Well, thank you for catching that and changing the rules. I was doing 6 things and I missed.
I know, I
appreciate
don't mind, I don't mind. I don't like to do that to you.
No, better good now than, yep, no, not a problem.
Then let me come back to haunt you.
I tell him he's like a local parliamentarian.
He educates me sometimes. He makes me open the book and look a couple things up, so. Y'all take care.
At least it was quiet.
Thank you, thank you. Hey, I'll come down there where you're at. I want to get away from the microphone.